Success isn't something you stumble upon by accident. Freedom isn't a gift that falls into your lap. The life you dream about requires the work most people refuse to do. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. While you sleep in, someone else is building their empire. While you scroll through social media, someone else is learning the skills that will make them irreplaceable. While you watch television for hours every night, someone else is creating the business that will set them free. Most people want the results without the sacrifice. They want the destination without the journey. They want the reward without the effort. But that is not how life works. Every waking hour is either building your future or wasting your potential. Every moment you are awake is a choice between progress and stagnation. Are you willing to work when others won't, so you can live like others can't? If you are ready to stop making excuses and start making real progress, then stay with me, because what I am about to share will change how you see your time forever. Number 1, start your day before everyone else wakes up. Let me tell you something that changed my entire life, and it had nothing to do with talent or luck or who I knew. It was the simple decision to wake up when the world was still asleep. I am talking about those quiet hours before the sun comes up, when most people are still dreaming about success, while you are actually building it. The morning doesn't care about your excuses or your circumstances or how tired you feel. It just sits there waiting for someone bold enough to claim it. And when you do claim it, when you actually get up and start working while everyone else hits the snooze button, you are not just getting a head start on your day. You are getting a head start on your entire future. Think about what happens in those early hours. There are no phone calls interrupting your focus. There are no emails flooding your inbox, demanding immediate attention. There are no people knocking on your door asking for favors or pulling you into their drama. It is just you and your goals and the pure silence that lets you think clearly about what really matters. I learned this lesson the hard way after years of waking up late and rushing through my mornings, and always feeling like I was chasing the day instead of leading it. One morning, I decided to try something different. I set my alarm for 5 in the morning, and when it went off, I didn't negotiate with myself. I just got up and started working on the project I had been putting off for months. That first morning felt magical because I accomplished more in 2 hours than I usually did in an entire day. But here is what most people don't understand about early mornings. It is not just about the extra time you gain. It is about the quality of your thinking when your mind is fresh and unburdened by the stress that accumulates throughout the day. Your brain in the early morning is like a clean slate ready to solve problems and create ideas and make decisions that will actually move your life forward. When you start your day before everyone else wakes up, you are making a statement to yourself about who you are and what you are willing to sacrifice for your dreams. Every successful person I've ever studied has this one thing in common. They understand that time is the most valuable currency they have, and they refuse to waste it sleeping while opportunities pass them by. I am not saying you should deprive yourself of sleep or run yourself into the ground. What I am saying is that you need to evaluate how you are spending your hours and ask yourself if staying in bed an extra hour is really worth more than working on the business you want to start, or the book you want to write, or the skills you want to develop. Most people never ask themselves this question because they're too comfortable with their routines and too afraid of the discomfort that comes with change. When that alarm goes off in the dark and every fiber of your being wants to stay under those warm covers, that is the exact moment where your future is being decided. You either choose comfort and stay where you are, or you choose growth and get up and do the work that nobody else is willing to do. I've watched people transform their entire lives just by shifting their wake-up time earlier. They didn't get smarter overnight or suddenly discover some hidden talent. They just started using the hours that everyone else was wasting, and they did it consistently, day after day, until it became who they were. The early morning hours give you something that no other time of day can offer. They give you control. When you wake up early, you control your schedule instead of letting your schedule control you. You decide what gets your best energy and your sharpest focus. instead of giving those precious resources to whatever emergency or distraction happens to pop up first. He would tell me how busy he was and how everyone needed something from him and how he just couldn't find a spare moment to focus on his own goals. So I asked him a simple question. What time do you wake up? He told me 7:30, and that is when I knew exactly why he wasn't making progress. I challenged him to wake up at 5 for just 1 week and use those 2.5 hours to work on his business before his regular job started. He resisted at first because, like most people, he had convinced himself that he needed those extra hours of sleep. But finally, he agreed to try it. And within that first week, everything changed for him. He built more momentum in 5 days than he had in the previous 5 months. Not because he suddenly had more talent or better ideas, but because he finally had uninterrupted time to execute on those ideas. The morning doesn't judge you or doubt you or tell you that your dreams are too big. It just gives you the space to work and build and become the person you need to be. Starting your day before everyone else wakes up is about more than productivity. It is about self-respect. It is about proving to yourself that you are serious about your goals and that you are willing to do what most people won't do. When you consistently wake up early and put in the work while the world sleeps, you develop a quiet confidence that no one can take from you. You know that while others are making excuses, you are making progress. While others are waiting for the perfect moment, you are creating it. While others are dreaming about success, you are actually building it one early morning at a time. The beautiful thing about this habit is that it compounds over time. One early morning might give you 2 productive hours, but do that every day for a year, and you've just added 730 hours of focused work to your life. That is the equivalent of adding over 90 full work days to your year, while everyone else is sleeping. Imagine what you could accomplish with an extra 90 days. You could write a book, or build a business, or learn a new skill that changes your entire career trajectory. Most people will never experience this kind of progress because they value temporary comfort more than permanent change. I want you to understand something important about the early morning hours. They're not a punishment or a sacrifice. They're a gift you give yourself. They're your chance to work on what matters most before the world starts making demands on your time and attention. When you wake up early, you are essentially buying back control of your life. You're saying that your dreams and your goals and your future are important enough to lose a little sleep over. And when you make that decision consistently, when you choose to start your day before everyone else wakes up, you are not just changing your schedule. You are changing your entire identity into someone who leads instead of follows. Someone who creates instead of reacts. Someone who wins because they're willing to work. Number 2, use every free minute to build your future. Most people throw away their future 15 minutes at a time, and they don't even realize they're doing it. I am talking about those small pockets of time that appear throughout your day when you are waiting for something or between tasks or during a break. That seems too short to matter. You know exactly what I mean. Those 10 minutes waiting for a meeting to start, or the 20 minutes on your commute, or the 15 minutes before dinner. Is ready? Most people pull out their phone and scroll through content that adds absolutely nothing to their life. They watch videos of strangers doing things that don't matter. They read comments from people they'll never meet about topics they don't care about. And while they're doing this, their future is slipping away minute by minute. I want you to think about something that will change how you see time forever. If you waste just 30 minutes every day on activities that don't move your life forward, that is 3.5 hours every week. That is 14 hours every month. That is 182 hours every year. Do you know what that equals? That is almost 23 full 8-hour workdays that you are just giving away to nothing. Imagine if someone told you that you had to work for free for 23 days straight with no pay and no benefit to your future. You would never agree to that. But that is exactly what you are doing when you waste those small chunks of time throughout your day. Here is what I learned after years of watching successful people and studying how they operate differently from everyone else. They see time as their most limited resource, and they protect it like their life depends on it, because it does. When they have 10 free minutes, they're not asking themselves what they can do to pass the time. They're asking what they can do to invest the time. There is a massive difference between those two questions. Passing time is what you do when you don't value your future. Investing time is what you do when you understand that every minute is a building block for something bigger. I started applying this principle about 15 years ago, and it completely transformed my productivity. I began carrying a small notebook everywhere I went. And whenever I had a few spare minutes, I would write down ideas or plan my next steps or review my goals. People thought I was obsessed, but I wasn't obsessed with work. I was obsessed with not wasting the gift of time that I'd been given. Those little sessions added up faster than I ever imagined. Ideas that became major projects started in 5-minute windows. While waiting for appointments, solutions to problems that had been stuck in my mind for weeks suddenly appeared during a 15-minute break. The creative breakthrough I needed for my business came while sitting in a waiting room with nothing but 10 minutes and a pen. What you need to understand is that your brain doesn't need hours of uninterrupted time to be productive. It just needs you to direct it towards something worthwhile. When you have 5 free minutes and you choose to read 1 page of an educational book instead of checking social media, you are training your mind to seek growth instead of distraction. When you use 10 minutes to review your goals instead of watching random videos, you are reinforcing what matters most to you. These small choices don't seem significant in the moment, but they create patterns that shape your entire life. Your habits are just the accumulation of tiny decisions you make when no one is watching and when it seems like those decisions don't matter. I've met so many people who tell me they don't have time to learn new skills or work on their side business or invest in their personal development. But when I observe how they actually spend their day, I see hours of wasted minutes that could have been used to build exactly what they claim they don't have time for. The problem isn't a lack of time. The problem is a lack of awareness about how much time they're actually throwing away. If you tracked every minute of your day for 1 week, you would be shocked at how much free time you actually have. The average person spends over 2 hours a day on their phone doing nothing productive. That is 14 hours a week. That is enough time to build a skill, start a business, write a book, or change your entire career path. Let me give you a practical example of how this works in real life. I knew a woman who wanted to become a better public speaker, but she kept saying she was too busy to practice. She had a full-time job and family responsibilities and a packed schedule. But when I suggested she use her 15-minute lunch break to practice speaking out loud, or her 10-minute commute to listen to speeches and analyze what made them effective, she realized she had been making excuses. She started using every spare minute to improve this skill. 5 minutes here practicing a story, 10 minutes there watching a great speaker and taking notes. 3 months later, she was getting invited to speak at events. And people were asking her how she improved so quickly. She didn't find extra time in her day. She just stopped wasting the time she already had. The future you want to create isn't going to appear because you work hard during your scheduled work hours. It is going to appear because you were willing to use every available minute to build it. Those free minutes are like small investments that compound over time. 1 minute of learning doesn't change your life, but 1 minute every day for a year is 365 minutes of growth that most people will never experience. 10 minutes of planning doesn't transform your business overnight, but 10 minutes every day for a month gives you 300 minutes of strategic thinking that will put you miles ahead of your competition. I want you to start seeing your free time as premium real estate that everyone wants, but only the disciplined get to use effectively. When you are waiting somewhere, that is not dead time, that is opportunity time. When you have a gap between activities, that is not a break to zone out. That is a chance to move forward. When you finish a task early and have a few minutes before the next one, that is not time to relax into distraction. That is time to sharpen your skills or review your progress or connect with someone who can help you grow. Every single one of these moments is a choice between building your future or letting it slip away. The people who rise to the top of their field don't get there because they have more hours in the day than you do. They get there because they use the same hours differently. They squeeze value out of minutes that most people don't even notice. They read while waiting, they learn while commuting, they plan while others scroll, they think while others zone out. And over time, these tiny differences create massive gaps in results. One person moves forward steadily every single day while another person stays exactly where they are. One success hasn't found them yet. Here's my challenge to you, and I mean this seriously. For the next 7 days, I want you to track every free minute you have and consciously decide how you are going to invest it. When you are waiting for something, use that time to read or listen or think about your goals. When you have a break, use it to take one small action toward what you are trying to build. When you finish something early, don't automatically reach for your phone. Reach for progress instead. After 7 days of doing this, you'll be amazed at how much you can accomplish with time you didn't even know you had. You'll also start to feel different about yourself because you'll know that you are someone who values their future enough to fight for every minute of it. Using every free minute to build your future isn't about being productive every second of the day until you burn out. It is about being intentional with the time you have so that you are actually moving towards something meaningful. Instead of just drifting through your days, it is about respecting yourself enough to invest in your growth, even when it is easier to choose distraction. It is about understanding that your future is being built right now in these small moments that most people ignore. And when you truly grasp this concept and start living it every day, you'll never look at free time the same way again. Number 3, turn waiting time into learning and planning time. Every day you spend hours waiting, and you probably don't even realize how much of your life is consumed by it. You wait in lines at the store. You wait for appointments to start. You wait for meetings to begin. You wait in traffic. You wait for your food to arrive. You wait for files to download. You wait for people to respond. And during all this waiting, most people do absolutely nothing that moves their life forward. They stand there staring at nothing, or they pull out their phone and numb their mind with content that evaporates the second they stop looking at it. This is one of the biggest wastes of human potential I've ever witnessed, because waiting time is actually the perfect time to get smarter and more prepared for what is coming next in your life. I figured this out about 20 years ago when I was stuck in a waiting room for 45 minutes before an important meeting. I had arrived early and the person I was meeting was running late. I sat there getting frustrated watching the minutes tick by feeling like my time was being stolen from me. Then something clicked in my mind. I had a choice in this moment. I could sit there being angry about the wait, or I could use the wait to get better. I pulled out some notes I had been working on and spent those 45 minutes planning my presentation and thinking through potential questions and organizing my thoughts. When the meeting finally started, I was so prepared that I closed the deal in 15 minutes. That wait didn't hurt me. It helped me. And from that day forward, I made a promise to myself that I would never waste waiting time again. Here is what you need to understand about waiting. It is going to happen whether you like it or not. You can't control when other people run late, or when traffic backs up, or when systems move slowly. But you can absolutely control what you do with your mind during those moments. Your brain is the most powerful tool you own, and it doesn't need perfect conditions to operate. It works just as well standing in a grocery line as it does sitting at a desk. The only difference is whether you choose to use it or let it idle. When you let your brain idle during waiting time, you are essentially saying that learning and growing and planning your future aren't important enough to think about, unless everything is perfect. That is a terrible way to live, and it guarantees you'll stay exactly where you are. I started carrying learning materials with me everywhere I went. At first, it was just books and notepads, but as technology improved, I loaded my phone with audiobooks and educational podcasts and articles I wanted to read. Whenever I found myself waiting, I had instant access to knowledge that could improve my skills or expand my thinking or give me new ideas. A 15-minute wait became a chance to learn something new about business. A 20-minute delay became an opportunity to listen to someone. A 30-minute traffic jam became a mobile classroom where I could absorb information that my competitors were too distracted to learn. This simple shift in how I used waiting time added hundreds of hours of learning to my life every single year. But learning isn't the only valuable thing you can do while waiting. Planning is just as powerful and maybe even more important for people who are trying to build something significant. Most people never plan anything. They just react to whatever happens and hope things work out. Then they wonder why their life feels chaotic and why they never make real progress toward their goals. Planning doesn't require a fancy office or a quiet space or hours of uninterrupted time. It just requires you to think deliberately about what you want to accomplish and how you are going to make it happen. When you are waiting somewhere, you have the perfect opportunity to think through your next moves without any of the usual distractions pulling at your attention. I remember sitting in my car waiting to pick up my kids from school and using that 20-minute window every day to plan my business strategy. I would think through problems that needed solving. I would map out new projects in my head. I would review what was working and what needed to change. Those daily planning sessions became some of my most productive thinking time because I wasn't trying to multitask or respond to emails or handle interruptions. I was just sitting there with my thoughts, focused entirely on making my business better. Over the course of a year, those 20-minute sessions added up to over 100 hours of strategic planning that most business owners never do because they're always too busy being busy. The beauty of turning waiting time into learning and planning time is that it changes how you feel about waiting. Instead of getting frustrated when things run late or when you are stuck somewhere, you actually start to welcome those moments because you know they're giving you a chance to get ahead. I've had people look at me strangely when I smile after finding out my appointment is running 30 minutes behind. They think I am crazy. But I am not crazy. I'm just excited about the unexpected gift of 30 minutes that I can use to read or think or plan while everyone else around me is wasting that same time complaining about the delay. This mindset shift alone has saved me from countless hours of negative emotions and turned potential frustration into productive action. Let me be very specific about what this looks like in practical terms. When you're waiting in line at the bank, you can listen to a podcast about financial management. When you are sitting in a waiting room before an appointment, you can read an article about your industry. When you are stuck in traffic, you can think through your goals for the month and adjust your approach based on what is working. When you are waiting for a meeting to start, you can review your notes and mentally prepare for the discussion. When you are early to pick someone up, you can plan your next project or outline the steps you need to take to move forward. Every single one of these moments is a choice between growth and stagnation. Most people choose stagnation without even realizing they're making a choice. The interesting thing about learning during waiting time is that your brain often absorbs information better in these short bursts than it does during long study sessions. When you listen to a 10-minute podcast while waiting, you are focused and engaged because you know your time is limited. You are not daydreaming or getting distracted because you are making the most of a small window. This focused attention actually helps the information stick in your memory better than if you were casually listening while doing 3 other things at once. I've learned complex business concepts and picked up new skills and discovered solutions to major problems, all during brief waiting periods, because my mind was sharp and intentional about using that time well. Planning during waiting time has another benefit that most people overlook. It gives you mental clarity about what really matters. When you only have 10 or 15 minutes to think about your goals, you naturally focus on the most important things instead of getting lost in trivial details. You ask yourself the big questions. What am I really trying to accomplish? What is the next most important step? What obstacles do I need to overcome? This kind of focused planning cuts through all the noise and helps you see your path forward more clearly than you would if you had hours to overthink everything. Some of my best decisions came from brief planning sessions during unexpected waits, because I was forced to think clearly and prioritize ruthlessly. I've watched people transform their entire trajectory simply by changing how they use waiting time. A friend of mine wanted to learn a new language, but kept saying he didn't have time for classes or study sessions. I told him to use his commute and his waiting time to listen to language lessons. He started doing 15 minutes here and 20 minutes there, whenever he was waiting or driving. Within 6 months, he was conversational in the language, and within a year, he was fluent enough to use it in business meetings. He didn't find extra hours in his day. He just stopped wasting the hours he already had sitting idle. That one change opened up international business opportunities he never would have had access to otherwise. Your waiting time is worth more than you think. Every minute you spend standing in line or sitting in traffic or waiting for something to start is a minute you could be using to learn something valuable or plan something meaningful or prepare yourself for the opportunities coming your way. The person who uses their waiting time well and the person who wastes it are living completely different lives, even though they have the same amount of time available. One person gets smarter and more prepared with each passing. The other person stays exactly the same, wondering why success never finds them. The difference isn't luck or talent or circumstances. The difference is what they choose to do with the moments everyone else ignores. Number 4, work on your goals during lunch and breaks. Walk into any office building at lunchtime, and you'll see the same pattern repeating itself every single day. People sitting in the break room talking about television, shows they watched last night, groups going out to eat and spending an hour complaining about their boss or their workload or how tired they are. Individuals scrolling through social media while eating at their desk, looking at the highlight reels of other people's lives. And what you are witnessing in these moments is the exact reason why most people never achieve anything beyond their regular paycheck. They're taking the precious break time they've been given and using it to relax into mediocrity instead of working towards something better. Your lunch break is not a reward for showing up to work. It is an opportunity to build the life you actually want while you are still getting paid to be there. I learned this lesson during the hardest financial period of my life. When I was working a job I hated but desperately needed, I would watch my coworkers take their full-hour lunch break to do absolutely nothing productive, and then spend the rest of the afternoon counting down the minutes until they could go home. Meanwhile, I started using my lunch break differently. I would eat quickly in 15 minutes, and then spend the remaining 45 minutes working on my side business. I made phone calls to potential clients. I wrote marketing materials. I planned my next steps. I did research on my industry, and while everyone else was laughing about some celebrity gossip or debating which restaurant had better food, I was building an escape route from the very job they had all resigned themselves to keeping forever. Within 6 months, my side business was generating enough income that I could see a clear path to leaving my job. Within a year, I was out, and the interesting part is that my coworkers were shocked when I quit. They asked me how I had time to build a business while working full-time. The answer was simple. I used the time they were wasting. Those lunch breaks alone gave me over 200 hours of focused work time in a single year. That is equivalent to 5 full weeks of work that I invested in my future while they invested in temporary comfort and meaningless conversations. This isn't about being antisocial or refusing to enjoy your life. This is about understanding that your goals require action and that breaks are perfect action opportunities that most people completely ignore. Think about the structure of your typical workday. You probably get a lunch break that is somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour. You might also get a morning break and an afternoon break, depending on where you work. Add all of that together, and you are looking at potentially 90 minutes of time every single day that belongs to you. Nobody is telling you what to do during those breaks. Nobody is monitoring your productivity. Nobody is demanding results. That time is yours to use however you want. And what most people choose to do with 90 free minutes every day is nothing that moves their life forward. They eat slowly. They browse the internet randomly. They check personal messages that could wait. They waste it completely. Now imagine a different approach. Imagine using just half of your break time to work on your most important goal. That is 45 minutes a day. That is over 3.5 hours every week. That is 15 hours every month. That is 180 hours every year. Do you know what you can accomplish with 180 dedicated hours? You can write a book, a comprehensive business plan. You can create an online course. You can develop a new skill to expert level. You can build a portfolio that gets you hired at your dream job. You can network with influential people in your field. You can do any number of things that will actually change your circumstances, instead of just complaining about them during lunch. Here's what I discovered about working on goals. During breaks, the mental switch from your regular work to your personal goals gives your brain a refresh that actually makes you more productive when you return to your job. When I was using my lunch breaks to work on my business, I would come back to my afternoon tasks feeling energized instead of sluggish. I had spent time doing something I cared about instead of something meaningless, and that enthusiasm carried over into everything else I did. My boss actually commented that I seemed more focused in the afternoons than most people, and I never told him it was because I was spending my breaks building my exit strategy. The irony is that working on your own goals during breaks makes you a better employee because you are engaged with something meaningful instead of just going through the motions. Let me address the most common objection people have. When I suggest this idea, they tell me that breaks are necessary to rest and recharge, and that they need that downtime to avoid burnout. I understand this concern, but I think it is based on a misunderstanding of what actually drains your energy. Doing work you hate drains your energy. Feeling stuck in a situation with no way out drains your energy. Spending 8 hours a day building someone else's dream, while your own dreams collect dust, drains your energy. But working on something you are genuinely excited about gives you energy even when you are tired. When you spend your lunch break making real progress on a goal that matters to you, you feel alive in a way that scrolling through social media or gossiping with coworkers will never make you feel. I've seen this principle work in countless situations beyond just side businesses. I knew a woman who wanted to transition into a completely different career field, but felt trapped in her current job because she didn't have the required skills. Instead of using her breaks to relax, she used them to take online courses related to her target industry. 30 minutes during lunch, 15 minutes during her afternoon break. Every single day for 8 months. By the time she applied for positions in the new field, she had completed multiple certifications and had more knowledge than people who had been in the industry for years. She got hired at a higher level than entry position because she had invested her break time wisely, while her peers had invested theirs in nothing. The power of working on your goals during breaks extends beyond just the time itself. It changes your entire relationship with your current situation. When you know that you are actively building something better during every break, your regular job becomes more tolerable because you see it as temporary instead of permanent. You stop feeling trapped because you are literally working your way out every single day. You stop complaining about your circumstances because you are too busy changing them. And this shift in mindset affects everything about how you show up in the world. You become someone who takes action instead of someone who makes excuses. You become someone who builds instead of someone who just wishes things were different. I want to be very clear about what this looks like in practical execution. When your lunch break starts, you eat your food efficiently without rushing, but also without treating it like a 2-hour fine dining experience. You fuel your body so it can perform, and then you get to work on what matters. You open your laptop or your notebook and you dive into whatever project is going to move your life forward. Maybe you are writing the business plan for the company you want to start. Maybe you are reaching out to contacts in the industry you want to break into. Maybe you are creating content for the platform you are building. Maybe you are studying for the certification that will qualify you for better opportunities. Whatever it is, you give it focused attention for the time you have available during your other breaks throughout the day. You can follow the same pattern. A 15-minute break is enough time to read a chapter of an important book. It is enough time to draft an email that could open a door for you. It is enough time to brainstorm solutions to a problem you've been facing. It is enough time to make one phone call that matters. It is enough time to review your goals and make sure you are staying on track. These small sessions add up to create massive momentum over time. Every break becomes a building block. Every day you are stacking another layer on the foundation of your future. And while this is happening, everyone around you is stacking nothing except temporary distractions that will be forgotten by tomorrow. The truth is that most people will never do this. They'll read these words or hear this message, and they'll think it sounds good, but then they'll go right back to wasting their breaks. Because changing behavior is harder than staying comfortable. They'll convince themselves that they need that full hour to decompress, or that working during breaks is too intense, or that they deserve to relax because they're already working hard enough. And those people will be in the exact same position 5 years from now, wondering why nothing ever changes for them. But you don't have to be one of those people. You can make a different choice starting with your very next break. You can decide that your goals are important enough to work on even when you are technically allowed to rest. You can turn your breaks into breakthrough moments instead of time-killing sessions. And when you do this consistently, when you refuse to waste the hours that everyone else throws away, you'll build something real while they're still talking about building something someday. Number 5, replace entertainment hours with productive, focused work sessions. The average person spends 4 hours every single day consuming entertainment that adds absolutely zero value to their life. And then they wonder why they never accomplish anything meaningful. 4 hours a day equals 28 hours a week. That is 112 hours a month. That is over 1,300 hours a year. Do you understand what 1,300 hours represents? That is the equivalent of 32 full work weeks that you are giving away to television, shows you'll forget about next month, and social media posts that mean nothing, and video games that don't improve your real-world situation at all. And here's the part that should terrify you. If you are spending 4 hours a day on entertainment, you are choosing to be entertained more than you are choosing to work on becoming the person you want to be. You are investing more time in fictional characters and other people's content than you are in your own actual future. I am not saying entertainment is evil or that you should never relax or enjoy yourself. What I am saying is that most people have the balance completely wrong. They spend the majority of their free time being entertained and only a tiny fraction working on their goals. Then they claim they don't have time to build a business or learn a new skill or create something valuable. The truth is, they have plenty of time. They're just spending it watching other people live interesting lives instead of building their own. I made this shift about 18 years ago, and it changed everything for me. I looked at how much time I was spending on entertainment that gave me nothing in return, and I felt sick. Hours every evening watching shows I didn't really care about, weekends lost to binge-watching series that were gone from my memory within weeks. Time that could have been used to build something permanent being traded for temporary distraction. When I decided to replace just half of my entertainment time with focused work on my goals, the results were immediate and dramatic. I suddenly had 2 hours every evening to work on projects that mattered. That is 10 hours a week. That is over 500 hours a year of pure productive time that I had been throwing away before. In the first year of making this change, I wrote a complete training program for my business. I developed new revenue streams. I built relationships with key people in my industry. I learned skills that doubled my income. And I did all of this without quitting my job or sacrificing sleep or neglecting my family. I just stopped giving my best hours to entertainment companies and started giving them to myself instead. Here's what happens. When you replace entertainment hours with productive work sessions, your brain starts to rewire itself to crave progress instead of distraction. In the beginning, it feels hard because you've trained yourself to expect entertainment as a reward for getting through the day. You come home from work, and your automatic response is to turn on the television, or open social media, or start a game. But when you push through that initial resistance and choose to work on something meaningful instead, you experience a different kind of satisfaction. You feel proud of yourself for taking action. You see tangible results from your effort. You go to bed knowing you moved forward instead of just killing time, and over days and weeks, this new pattern becomes your normal. The resistance you feel toward replacing entertainment with work is actually proof that you need to make this change. Your comfort zone is telling you to stay exactly where you are because growth requires discomfort. When you feel that pull toward the couch and the remote control, that is not your body needing rest. That is your mind trying to protect you from the hard work of becoming better. And if you listen to that voice every single night, you'll stay exactly where you are for the rest of your life. But if you recognize it for what it is and choose productivity anyway, you'll be amazed at how quickly your circumstances begin to shift. The person who works focused sessions every evening while their neighbors watch television is living in a completely different reality within just a few months. Let me give you specific examples of what this looks like in practice. Instead of watching 2 hours of television after dinner, you spend those 2 hours building the website for your business idea. Instead of scrolling social media for 90 minutes before bed, you spend that time learning the software skills that will qualify you for better job opportunities. Instead of playing video games for 3 hours on Saturday, you spend that time creating content that establishes your expertise in your field. Instead of binge watching an entire series over the weekend, you spend those 8 hours writing the book you've been talking about for years. Every single one of these choices represents a fork in the road between the life you have and the life you want. Most people take the entertainment path every time and then complain that success is only for lucky people. I need to address something important here because I know what some people are thinking. They're worried that replacing entertainment with work will make their life miserable and joyless. But that is a fundamental misunderstanding of what brings real happiness. Watching television doesn't make you happy. It just makes you not bored for a while. Playing games doesn't fulfill you. It just gives you artificial achievements that mean nothing outside the game. Scrolling social media doesn't enrich your life. It just makes you feel connected to people you barely know while you ignore the real connections that matter. True satisfaction comes from building something real, from making progress on goals that matter to you, from knowing that you are moving toward a better future instead of just passing time until you die. When you work focused sessions on your goals, instead of consuming entertainment, you tap into a deeper form of enjoyment that entertainment can never provide. You experience the satisfaction of creation instead of just consumption. You feel the pride of accomplishment instead of just the temporary pleasure of distraction. You build confidence in yourself because you are proving every day that you can do hard things instead of just choosing easy things. And this type of fulfillment lasts. It compounds. It grows stronger over time, whereas the pleasure you get from entertainment evaporates the moment the show ends, or the game closes, or you put your phone down. I've watched people completely transform their financial situation, their career trajectory, and their entire life quality simply by redirecting their entertainment hours into productive work. A friend of mine was stuck in a dead-end job, complaining about his situation every time we talked. I asked him how much time he spent watching television and playing games each week. He estimated about 25 hours. I told him to cut that in half and use the freed up time to learn web development through free online resources. He resisted at first because he said gaming was his way to relax after work. But I challenged him to try it for just 1 month. Within that month, he had built his first website. Within 3 months, he had completed enough projects to build a portfolio. Within 6 months, he had landed his first freelance client. Within a year, he had quit his job and was making more as a freelance developer than he ever made as an employee. His life didn't change because he got lucky. It changed because he stopped entertaining himself into mediocrity. The entertainment industry has trained you to believe that you need their content to be happy and relaxed. They've built billion-dollar businesses on keeping you distracted and consuming and coming back for more. And they're very good at what they do. The shows are designed to be addictive. The games are engineered to keep you playing. The platforms are built to maximize your time on them. But here's what they'll never tell you. Every hour you give them is an hour you are not giving to yourself. Every evening you spend watching their content is an evening you are not spending building your dreams. Every weekend you lose to binge watching is a weekend you could have used to create something valuable. They profit from your time, and you get nothing except temporary distraction from the fact that your life isn't changing. Replacing entertainment hours with productive, focused work sessions requires a mental shift in how you view your free time. Most people see evening and weekend hours as time to escape from their responsibilities and do nothing demanding. But successful people see those hours as their most valuable asset because nobody is telling them what to do with that time. Your work hours belong to your employer. Your sleep hours are non-negotiable. But your free hours are truly yours, and how you spend them determines everything about your future. If you spend them being entertained, your future will look exactly like your present. If you spend them working on meaningful goals, your future will be dramatically different and better in every way that matters. I challenge you to track your entertainment consumption for 1 week. Write down every minute you spend on television, social media, games, and other forms of passive entertainment. Be honest about the numbers. Most people severely underestimate how much time they waste because they don't want to face the reality. Once you see the real number, cut it in half and commit those freed up hours to focused work on your most important goal. Don't try to eliminate all entertainment at once because that usually leads to burnout and regression. Just replace half of it with productivity and watch what happens to your life. You'll accomplish more in 3 months than most people accomplish in 3 years, simply because you are using time that everyone else is wasting. And once you see the results, once you experience what it feels like to make real progress, you'll naturally want to replace even more entertainment hours with productive sessions, because you'll finally understand that building your future is far more rewarding than watching other people pretend to live interesting lives on a screen. Number 6, stay awake longer to finish what you started. There's a moment that comes almost every night when you are working on something important and your body starts telling you it is time to quit. Your eyes feel heavy. Your focus begins to drift. Your mind whispers that you've done enough for today and you can finish tomorrow. And right there in that exact moment, you make a decision that separates you from 90% of the people who will never achieve anything extraordinary. You either listen to that voice of comfort and go to bed with your work unfinished, or you push through the tiredness and stay awake until you complete what you started. Most people choose sleep. They tell themselves they need rest and that they'll be more productive tomorrow, and that their health requires them to stop. But what they're really choosing is the easy path. They're choosing to leave their goals incomplete one more night. And when you make that choice repeatedly, you train yourself to be someone who stops when things get uncomfortable, instead of someone who finishes what they begin. I am not talking about destroying your health or running yourself into the ground or never sleeping. What I am talking about is those specific nights when you are close to completing something meaningful, and you have the choice to either finish it now or leave it hanging for another day. When you are 80% done with a project and you feel tired, but you could absolutely push through and get it to 100% if you stayed up another hour. When you are on the verge of a breakthrough in your work, and you know that quitting now means you'll have to rebuild that momentum from scratch tomorrow. When you started something that morning with energy and excitement, and now it is late, but you are so close to the finish line that stopping would be foolish. These are the moments that define whether you are actually committed to your goals or just playing around with them. I learned the power of staying awake to finish what I started during a period When I was building my business while working a full-time job, there were countless nights when I came home exhausted from my regular work, and I still had hours of business tasks ahead of me. The easy choice would have been to go to bed and tell myself I'd do it tomorrow. But I knew that tomorrow would bring its own set of tasks and responsibilities. And if I didn't finish what I started today, it would just pile up and eventually bury me under a mountain of incomplete work. I made a commitment to myself that if I started something important, I would finish it that same day, no matter how late I had to stay awake. Some nights I worked until midnight. Some nights I worked until 2 in the morning. And yes, I was tired the next day. But you know what? I was also making progress while my competitors were making excuses. The interesting thing about pushing through tiredness to finish your work is that it builds a type of mental toughness that becomes invaluable in every area of your life. When you prove to yourself that you can complete tasks even when you are exhausted, you stop being afraid of hard work. You stop looking for easy ways out. You stop quitting when things get difficult. This mental strength becomes part of your identity, and it shows up in how you handle challenges and setbacks and obstacles. People who go to bed leaving their work unfinished develop a habit of quitting that bleeds into everything they do. People who stay awake to complete what they started develop a habit of finishing that transforms them into unstoppable forces. Let me address the concern about sleep, because I know some people will focus on that instead of the larger principle. Yes, sleep is important for your health and productivity. Nobody is arguing against that. But let's be honest about what is really happening when you choose to go to bed instead of finishing your work. In most cases, you are not making a health decision. You are making a comfort decision. You are choosing the soft pillow over the hard work. You are choosing tomorrow's excuses over tonight's results. And if you examine your sleep habits honestly, you'll probably find that you waste time before bed scrolling through your phone or watching shows or doing things that aren't restful anyway. If you took that wasted hour and used it to finish your important work, you'd go to bed at the same time, but with the satisfaction of completion instead of the guilt of procrastination. The momentum you build by finishing what you start is worth more than the extra hour of sleep you think you need. When you wake up the next morning knowing you completed your task the night before, you start the day with confidence and energy that comes from accomplishment. You don't have that nagging feeling of unfinished business weighing on your mind. You don't have to spend the first hour of your day trying to remember where you left off and rebuilding the focus you had yesterday. You just move forward to the next challenge because the previous one is done. Compare that to waking up with yesterday's incomplete work still hanging over you, adding to today's workload, creating stress before your day even begins. One approach builds positive momentum. The other builds mounting pressure. I've seen people accomplish incredible things simply by adopting the principle of staying awake until their important work is finished. A woman I mentored was trying to write a book while managing a demanding career and family responsibilities. She kept starting chapters and leaving them half finished because she was tired at night. The book dragged on for over a year with minimal progress. I challenged her to change her approach. Whenever she started a chapter, she had to finish it that same day or night, no matter how long it took. The first few chapters were brutal. She stayed up until midnight or later fighting through exhaustion to get the words on the page. But something shifted after that. She got faster at writing because she wasn't wasting time rereading and re-entering her previous work. She got more confident because she was proving to herself that she could finish what she started. She completed the remaining chapters in just 3 months and published her book. The difference wasn't talent or time or circumstances. The difference was the commitment to finish. Staying awake to complete your work also protects you from one of the most dangerous patterns that kills dreams. That pattern is the cycle of starting and stopping and restarting that prevents you from ever gaining real traction. When you stop your work in the middle and go to bed, you lose the context and the flow and the specific thinking that was driving your progress. The next time you return to it, you have to spend energy getting back into that mental state before you can move forward. And if you keep doing this over and over, you end up spending most of your time restarting instead of progressing. But when you push through and finish what you started before you sleep, you eliminate that waste completely. You finish one thing and start the next thing fresh, instead of constantly trying to pick up the pieces of half-finished work. There is also something powerful that happens in those late-night hours. When you are tired, but you keep working anyway. Your mind enters a different state where creative solutions appear, and problems that seem complex suddenly become clear. Some of my best ideas and biggest breakthroughs came at 11 at night, or 1 in the morning when I was exhausted but determined to finish. I don't fully understand the science behind it, but I know from experience that there is a quality of thinking that emerges when you push past normal stopping points. It is like your brain realizes you are serious about finding a solution, and it stops offering you the easy way out and instead gives you the real answers you need. Let me be very specific about how to implement this without destroying yourself. This isn't about staying up all night every night working yourself to death. It is about strategic decisions on specific nights, when finishing something will create significant value. If you are working on a proposal that is due tomorrow, and you are 90% done at 10 at night, stay awake and finish it. If you are building something important and you've hit a groove where progress is flowing easily despite being tired, keep going until you reach a natural stopping point. If you are close to solving a problem that has been blocking your progress, and you can feel the solution forming in your mind, don't go to bed until you've worked it out. These are the moments where an extra hour or two of work tonight saves you days or weeks of struggle later. The discipline of finishing what you start before you sleep creates a reputation with yourself that is more valuable than any reputation you have with others. When you consistently complete your work regardless of how tired you feel, you become someone you can trust. You become someone who follows through. You become someone who doesn't make excuses. And that internal trust is the foundation of all achievement, because it means you'll actually do the things you say you are going to do instead of just talking about them. Most people can't trust themselves because they've broken promises to themselves so many times that their own commitments mean nothing. But when you develop the habit of staying awake to finish what you started, you rebuild that trust one completed task at a time. Your competitors are going to bed right now, leaving their work unfinished. They're telling themselves they'll do it tomorrow. They're choosing comfort over completion. And tomorrow they'll do the same thing, and the next day and the next, and years will pass and they'll still be almost finishing things, but never quite getting there. Meanwhile, you can make a different choice tonight. You can stay awake for 1 more hour and finish what you started. You can push through the tiredness and complete the task. You can go to bed knowing you did what you said you would do. And when you make that choice consistently, when you become someone who finishes regardless of how you feel, you'll accomplish more in 1 year than most people accomplish in 10, simply because you refuse to leave your important work incomplete. Make weekends your secret weapon for getting ahead. Every Friday afternoon, most people start counting down the hours until they can stop working and begin their weekend of doing absolutely nothing productive. They've convinced themselves that Saturday and Sunday are sacred days meant only for relaxation and entertainment and recovering from the week. And while they're sleeping in until noon and binge watching shows and wandering through shopping malls, there is a small group of people who are using those same 48 hours to build empires. These people understand something that the masses will never figure out. Weekends aren't a break from building your future. Weekends are when you have the most uninterrupted time to actually create the life you want. While everyone else is resting, you can be working. While everyone else is recovering, you can be advancing. While everyone else is preparing to face another week of the same routine, you can be building the escape route that will free you from that routine. Think about what weekends really represent. You have 2 full days where nobody is demanding your time for their projects, or their priorities, or their emergencies. You are not sitting in meetings that could have been emails. You are not responding to your boss, or dealing with coworkers, or managing other people's problems. You have complete control over how you spend those hours. And if you're strategic about it, you can easily get 20 to 30 hours of focused work done on your own goals between Saturday and Sunday. That is almost a full work week every single weekend. That is 52 extra work weeks per year. that you are investing in yourself while your competition is investing in nothing. Do you understand how far ahead you can get in just 1 year? If you use your weekends wisely, you can build a business from zero to profitable. You can master skills that take most people 5 years to learn. You can create opportunities that completely change your financial trajectory. I started using weekends as my secret weapon back when I was working a job that consumed my weekdays completely. I would wake up Saturday morning at the same time I woke up during the week, and I would work on my business for 8 solid hours. Then I'd do the same thing on Sunday. My friends thought I was crazy. They would call me to hang out or go to parties or just waste time together, and I would politely decline because I had work to do. But here's what they didn't understand. I wasn't missing out on anything. I was investing in everything. While they were nursing hangovers on Sunday morning, I was closing deals. While they were scrolling through photos of other people's lives, I was building my own life. While they were complaining about being broke on Monday, I was generating income from the business I built on the weekend. The beautiful thing about working weekends when everyone else is relaxing is that you have a competitive advantage that is almost unfair. Your competitors aren't working. Your industry rivals are taking the weekend off. The people trying to achieve the same goals as you are watching sports or going to brunch or doing things that won't matter in 5 years. And you are getting better. You are building. You are creating. You are moving forward. This gap compounds incredibly fast because you are not just working more hours. You are working the hours when nobody else is working, which means you are making progress while they're standing still. In 6 months, you'll be so far ahead of where they are that they won't even understand how you did it. Let me address the pushback I always get when I suggest working weekends. People say they need weekends to recharge and spend time with family and maintain their mental health. And I am not dismissing those things as unimportant. But let's be honest about what most people are actually doing with their weekends. People say they're not spending quality time with family for 48 hours straight. They're not engaged in meaningful activities that truly restore their energy. Most people are wasting the majority of their weekend on mindless entertainment, and then using the family and mental health arguments to justify that waste. If you actually tracked your weekend hours, you'd probably find that you are spending maybe 4 or 5 hours on genuine family time, and the rest on activities that add no value to anyone's life. What I am suggesting is that you protect those important family hours and eliminate the waste. Spend Saturday morning working on your business for 4 hours. Then spend the afternoon with your family doing something you all enjoy. Spend Saturday evening working another 3 hours on your goals. Then relax for the evening. Wake up Sunday and work another 4 hours. Spend the afternoon recharging however you need to. Work another 2 hours in the evening. You've just put in 13 hours of focused work on your dreams while still having plenty of time for family and rest. And those 13 hours every weekend for a year equals 676 hours of work on your goals. That is almost 17 full work weeks. Show me someone who puts in 17 extra work weeks per year on their personal goals, and I'll show you someone who is going to succeed no matter what obstacles they face. The shift from treating weekends as downtime to treating them as opportunity time requires you to change how you think about work and rest. Most people see work as a punishment. They have to endure to earn the right to rest on weekends. But when you are working on something you actually care about, something you chose, something that is building your future instead of someone else's, work doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like progress. I genuinely look forward to my weekend work sessions because that is when I get to focus on projects that excite me without the interruptions that fill my weekdays. I am more energized after 4 hours of working on my own business than I am after 4 hours of sitting in meetings for my employer. The difference is engagement. When you care about what you are building, the work itself becomes the reward. I've watched this pattern play out hundreds of times with people I've mentored over the years. The ones who treat weekends as work time achieve their goals in a fraction of the time it takes everyone else. A man I coached wanted to transition from his corporate job to becoming a consultant in his field. He spent every weekend for 6 months building his consulting business. He created his service offerings on Saturdays. He reached out to potential clients on Sundays. He developed his expertise and built his reputation while his coworkers were watching football and going to bars. After 6 months, he had enough clients to quit his job and go full-time. His coworkers were shocked at how fast he built his business, but it wasn't fast. He just worked when they didn't. Weekends also offer something that weekday evenings can't provide. You have long uninterrupted blocks of time to dive deep into complex projects. During the week, you might only have an hour or two after work before you are tired and need to sleep. But on weekends, you can work for 4 or 5 hours straight and really make significant progress on things that require sustained focus. You can tackle the big projects that keep getting pushed aside during the week. You can solve the problems that need more than 30 minutes of thinking. You can create the systems and strategies that will carry your business forward for months. This type of deep work is where real breakthroughs happen, and weekends are when you have the time to do it properly. There is also a psychological benefit to working weekends that most people never experience. When you work on Saturday and Sunday, while knowing that everyone else is relaxing, you develop an edge that carries over into your weekday work as well. You know you are outworking your competition. You know you are putting in the hours that others refuse to put in. You know you are building something while they're building nothing. This knowledge creates a quiet confidence that shows up in how you handle challenges and make decisions and pursue opportunities. You are not desperate or anxious because you know you are doing the work required to succeed. You are calm and focused because you are investing the time that guarantees results. Let me give you a specific example of how weekend work creates massive advantages. Imagine 2 people with the same goal of building a side business. Person A works on their business 2 hours each weeknight for a total of 10 hours per week. Person B works on their business 2 hours each weekend day for a total of 26 hours per week. After 1 year, Person A has invested 520 hours in their business. Person B has invested 1,352 hours. That is more than double the time invested. And because of compounding effects, where progress builds on progress, Person B isn't just twice as far ahead. They're 5 or 10 times further ahead because the momentum from their weekend work carries over into better decisions and faster execution during the week as well. The truth that nobody wants to hear is that weekends are the great separator between people who talk about goals and people who achieve them. Everyone has access to the weekend. Everyone gets those same 48 hours, but most people waste them on temporary pleasures that are forgotten by Monday morning.